I like him, but he's really annoying. What's up, guys? I'm Hunter here, and here to do a breakdown and discussion on Hakari Kinji, the restless gambler. He who decides fate is the most annoying character to scale in all of Jujutsu Kaisen. Very particularly annoying. Put heavy emphasis on that word in particular, annoying. Yes, Kashimo fans, I will address your boy in another video. Yes, Yuki fans, I will address your girl in another video. Yes, okay, I think those are mainly the two. Yes, Mahito fans, I will address your boy in another video. But this one's for me. Because I like Hakari as a character. But gosh darn it, is he a nightmare to scale. So let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. Editing me, are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do mean to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, Hakari Kinji is a character in Jujutsu Kaisen. And like every other character in every other manga that has even the slightest bit of fights in them, not to talk of entire manga that are based entirely around their fights like JJK, I have the natural inclination. You know, it's just an instinct. It's like an itch at this point. I grew up on it and now I gotta do it. I love scaling. Power skill. Am I the best at it? Absolutely not. I have been wrong before, I will be wrong again, and I'll probably be wrong in this video. But still, I love me some good old-fashioned power skill. And now, naturally, I also appreciate a good challenge. While I haven't played any of the Souls games yet, I have played Hollow Knight. Technically still haven't beaten that bad boy. I need to finish that on stream. But I have Black Myth Wukong, and that's also not a Dark Souls game. I admittedly have not delved into the deepest depths of challenge. I'll do that one day. But still, you know, I appreciate a good bit of difficulty. I don't want things just to be handed to me. I like a little bit of dance, a little bit of back and forth, a little bit of debate. But typically, and I found this is consistent, and I may make videos on these types of characters in other series, because they do exist. Hakari's not the only one, but he's the one that bothers me the most out of like recent memory, and specifically in JJK. But every series that's based around conflict has those characters that kind of just cause a headache. Those characters that have so much said about them, but they succeed so little that you have to wonder, how much should I really take versus how much should I really not take? And based on that balance, that equilibrium, where do I put them? For example, for my Guilty Gear players out there, Ramethal Valentine. She loses literally every fight, but supposedly she's very powerful. I don't know how that works. But it be like that when it be like that, especially when it be like that. For my JJK fans, Yuki Tsukumo, one of the 4 special grade sorcerers, her first fight she died in. Oh, wow, crazy. Buku bonkers, fellas. We've all seen those types of characters, but Hakari Kinji is one of the worst for me because of how much discourse and how bipolar it is. Because I'll be completely honest, there are 2 sides of it. If you are a feats-only kind of person, Hakari has nothing. Genuinely nothing. No AP, no durability, no speed, no nothing. Because who does he fight? Think about it. He fights who? Major people. Well, Charles. Okay, no one's glazing Charles. But he fights Urume, Big Rume, or Rame, my bad. Big Rame, and Big Whoop, that's not it, but Big Kashimo. He fights those 2. You wanna know what the issue with those 2 is? They scale nowhere. Unless you do weird roundabout things that don't make sense in the grand scheme of the rest of the narrative. Unless we have to throw those out too. So what do we have for Hakari Kinji? You know what we have. It was sitting on the screen. And I know people are mad at it already, and I don't even blame y'all because of the implications. But we have the statement. The statement that haunts every single Maki fan, every single Yuta fan, every single Itadori fan. It's a statement of statements from statements, by statements, around statements. Hey, we're short-handed, so we gotta rope in whoever we can. Oh, is he tough? Well, he's moody. But when he gets worked up, he's stronger than I am. That's not true, Maki. This statement right here, golly gee willikers, fellas, did it light the fandom on fire. Essentially, Hakari Kinji was hyped up to be as powerful as Yuta Kotsu. Now, of course, if this was said about Baki, I don't think anyone would blink. If this was said about Yuji, I don't think anyone would blink. If this was said about Megumi, I don't think anyone would blink. But specifically, The fact that it was said about Mr. Yuta Okotsu, Mr. Former Main Character, Mr. The Cursed Child, Mr. The Blessed One, Mr. Second to Satoru Gojo and unusual abilities, or in some translations strength, or in some translations power, or in some translation anything, regardless, Yuta's second place and now currently the strongest sorcerer of the modern day. Yeah, this statement was made about him. Hakari Kinji. Cool statement, bro. Where are the feet? Where they at? And I would typically say that, but this is not a singular statement. Hakari Kinji isn't just put in the league of Yuta Okotsu this one time. It's doubled down on an external material, which I can't find, but I've seen it enough that I know it's real. There's another external material that repeats this statement, hyping up Hakari Kinji as a rival to Yuta Okotsu, if not stronger than him, when he's worked up and or in some translations on a roll, which we have seen. So there's this one. And then, if you'll remember, if you'll take a glance into the future, we have another very knowledgeable, very powerful, very cool character who also makes drastic note of Hakari Kinji, even more than they do their own child. If Satoru Gojo loses, the rest of Jujutsu High's main fighting force, including Okotsu, will be busy with you two today. Their only chance to defeat Sukuna will be right after he's fought Satoru Gojo, which will leave me free to do as I please. Now, who's the main fighting force in Kenjaku's eyes? Based on what he knows about them. The heavenly restricted ghosts of the Zenin, the Blessed One, the Cursed Child Yuta Okotsu, and Hakari Kinji. So once again, this is more narrative backing. Hakari being put in the same league as Yuta Okotsu and Maki Zenin. Now, I know there are Yuta Okotsu fans who'll be like, that's right, gentleman. Clearly, this does not mean they're grouped as a relative. Just because they're heavy hitters doesn't mean they're all equal. Obviously, my glorious King Yuta Okotsu clears both of these bums. And hey, we can talk about Maki versus Yuta another day, but I 100% agree that Yuta does clear Hakari. But regardless, once again, this is the narrative and characters who are knowledgeable putting their 2 cents in. Showing us, and GEGE through those characters showing us that, hey, Hakari Kinji, he's a real strong dude. He's a real mighty fella. He's that kind of guy. And of course, this isn't the only bit. Not talking about any more external materials, because a lot of people, and I don't blame them, when looking at the initial statement, they have 2 main arguments. And let's go back to it just so we can chat about it real quick. The 2 biggest contentions I see about this statement in particular is, number 1, Yuta Okotsu is humble. And thusly, he's lying. Maki even comes in and says that's not true. However, while that is a nice argument, Senator, why don't you back it up with a... No, I'm kidding. Because we have Yuta saying this himself, and not only does Yuta not necessarily have a reason to lie, not only could this still mean that Hakari Kinji could lose to Yuta Okotsu, and not only would it not make sense for him to lie here, but I feel like Yuta isn't as humble as some of y'all think. Like he's still a greedy guy. Like, he's a Jujutsu sword. Like, just review Yuta's characterization for me real quick. I don't think he's as humble to the point of just straight lying, especially when he's trying to convince people to bring on an external fighting force in order to take care of the most dangerous scenario they've ever seen in their lives, next to Shibuya. So, on the levels of Yuta being humble and lying, I don't really see the vision, especially considering this is backed up by the external source. So honestly, I do kind of take this at face value. And top that off with the fact that it does kind of make sense, just if you go with the idea of cursed energy reinforcement requiring your base body plus your amount of cursed energy. Yuta Okotsu has balanced cursed energy. Hakari Kinji on a roll has infinite cursed energy. Yuta has a weaker base body than Hakari. So Hakari, when he gets infinite cursed energy, the same thing that Yuta has, they both get raised up. Bada bing, bada boom. Hakari having a better physical base and faster RCT and overall bigger build would end up being stronger. Bada bing, bada boom, yada, yada, yada. And that doesn't include Rika. Yuta saying he's stronger than me does not include Rika. Because Yuta still sees Rika as a separate entity, and Rika's even treated somewhat as a separate entity who needs to be summoned, who needs to be equipped, who needs to be activated. She's an extension technique, kind of, sort of, in a weird roundabout way, even though she does not go into curse any burnout with Yuta. So, clearly, she's her own separate thing, and you can still have Hakari being stronger than Yuta without Yuta losing to Hakari, or being stronger, or Hakari being stronger than Rika. So this statement is certainly fine. Top it off with the external statement that doubles down on this fact. Yeah, this is okay. Yeah, this is okay too. The idea that Kenjaku views this crew as the main fighting force. Absolutely. And this is the final big hefty triple down that kind of puts it in the favor, at least in my opinion, of GEGE at least trying to slide us the idea that Hakari, regardless of how powerful Yuta got post-time skip, still being relative in the same grouping, in the same stat category as Yuta. If you don't remember, Yuta's about to join the fight, and then Hakari says, hey, Kotsu, Kashimo's right. Gojo said he only wants help if he gets weaker than you or me. Now you may be like, well, this is from the horse's mouth. I ain't trusting that bad boy. But why would he be lying, though? Once again, we go back to the whole idea of Yuta. Okay, you could argue it, it's a humble thing. Even then, it doesn't make sense within the context of the situation. In the context of this situation, why would Hakari be lying about his relativity to Yuta? Especially considering he's not saying we shouldn't go in there unless Gojo becomes weaker than us. He says, Gojo said he only wants help if he gets weaker than you or me. That's implying that Gojo took an assessment of Shinjuku Yuta and Shinjuku Hakari, once again, because a lot of people say, oh, well, the statement expires post-time skip. Gojo took an assessment of both and said, either of you two, if I'm weaker than either of you two. Meaning those two are in the same pillar. He doesn't mention Yuji here, he doesn't mention Maki here. Of course, I know the Magi Meat Munchers are going to be like, pencil, no! I know the Hakari and Yuta Yakuza are going to be like, pencil, yes. But he doesn't mention Maki here, despite her level of strength. He doesn't mention Yuji here, despite his level of strength. So, once again, this is Yuta and Hakari being bunched together in this thick, juicy, wonderful, super sloppy, toppy, top of the Jujutsu world narrative. And topped it off with Gojo's other statements about Hakari being fine, just like he wouldn't worry about Yuta. Like, bada bing, bada boom. All of it leads to Hakari being relative to Yuta. So you may be wondering, okay, Pencilman, so you just spent the past 10 minutes or so arguing that Yuta's statement is valid, then bring up Kinjaku's statement of the heavy hitters, and now bring up this statement from Hakari, and all correlating it to this idea that Hakari Kinji, the restless gambler, is comparable to Yuta Kotsu. And that it's okay, and you even gave an entire explanation based on how the mechanics of the series work, on why that would be fine, and why personally you believe that doesn't necessarily mean that Hakari Kinji defeats Yuta Kotsu. But what are you trying to tell me, Pencil? What is exactly annoying about that? What bothers you down to your very core that you decide that Hakari Kinji, of all the many characters in JJK who are statement merchants, why are you so focused on Hakari?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I do have an answer to that question for you. Let me tell you right now.
The fact that there's literally nothing that at least remotely implies it, and the fact that if you remove these statements, if you grab onto them, like a lot of the fandom does, grab onto them, get a good grip and tear them out, Hakari has nothing to suggest he's even in the top 10 in terms of stats. Think about it. Think about it. Who does Hakari fight? I mentioned it earlier. Who does Hakari fight? He fights Mr. Farmer Man over here and the chef. Now, don't get me wrong. Mr. Farmer Man over here and the chef both have their own crazy lore statements. And even then, the variability or the viability of those statements is technically in question. You know who calls Urarame a monster? Kusakabe. You know who else Kusakabe called a monster? Jogo! So, like, I'm not sure how much I'm supposed to take his word. Kashima Hajime. Oh, he was the strongest of the... How strong is the Edo? Sure, we had Mr. Ryu Ishigori, but guess what? Those two never fought. Kashima was an old man and died the same day Ryu was becoming relevant enough that Kinjaku mentioned him. So who is actually strong between Mr. Highest Output and the Lightning Guy? Who knows? Are they relative at all? Who knows? Does Kashima even actually have a statement of being the strongest of the Edo? Not really. It's in his narrative that he was, but once again, he didn't fight Ryu, and we don't know enough about the Edo period. Sure, there was a 6 Eyes and Limitless user at the time, but we don't know how strong they were. And there was a 10 Shadows user at the time, and we don't know how strong they were. They could be Team Gojo level, Pre-Awakening, and Megumi level. For all we know, we just don't know. So that puts all the onus on Hakari and his statements for either of these two characters to appear powerful. Because don't get me wrong, Uraume has one crazy feat, one Buku Bonkers feat, one feat that haunts me as a Maki Meat Muncher to this day. And it's that darn feat back in like 216 where out of nowhere, even though Maki's looking directly at Uraume manages to max output Frostcom, freeze Maki, and she doesn't escape on panel. She just gets stuck there, frozen 100%. Of course, Uraume focused a lot of their output on Maki, but that doesn't matter. The fact that Maki's able to dodge some of the fastest attacks in the verse, including full chant dismantles, yet somehow isn't able to dodge that. Yeah, that's a crazy feat for Uraume, but I've talked with people about it, and apparently people don't like that feat. I'm fine with it, because I don't mind Uraume being that strong, but still, a lot of people don't like that feat. I think it throws a wrench in everything, and then just disregard it, or say Maki was off guard. Personally, I still disagree about that, but that's when I talk about Uraume in their own scaling video. If you can't tell by the theme of this video, there are going to be a lot of characters getting scaling videos and my retrospective thoughts on them, and bada bing, bada boom. But still, if you disregard that, and then you just don't assume that Kashimo here is the actual strongest in the Edo, and you go with this idea that maybe he did have competition, it's just competition we didn't see, or that the Edo was fodder, and really just full of farmers like the fandom likes to joke about, then we're in this weird position. Because if you strip away Hakari's statements, and then you strip away Kashimo's non-existent statements and his narrative, and then you strip away Ume's one good feat, where does that leave Hakari? Like, everywhere. In his AP stat, it kind of doesn't leave him with much of anything. At least in my opinion, he just shows relativity to base Kashimo. And base Kashimo shows relativity to him. Sure, Hakari has his moments where he overpowers him, and for some reason, previous past me did not pull up the final chapter of this fight, but still, you'll remember, in the final chapter, Kashimo took basically no damage from the battle. He doesn't have RCT. He legit just took little to no damage from Hakari, wailing on him for what was upwards of 8 minutes? 12 minutes? Just took no damage. He did more damage to himself by emptying his cursed energy pool. And guess who else has minimal damage on them throughout what little we see of their battle? Oh yeah, Arame. Now, of course, this ending point where Arame seems mostly undamaged, they just had their clothes off. Make your jokes. But had their clothes off? Yeah, sure. Arame does have RCT themselves, and thusly, probably just healing. But still, the fact that Hakari doesn't even beat Arame, and rather they off themselves, is not a good look for Hakari and his general feats. His general placement. So we're in this very feast or famine kind of deal. Because if we just take every statement at face value, Shinjuku Hakari equal to Shinjuku Yuta in terms of stats, then we start doing the transitive property. Okay, everything Yuta does, Hakari could do. Does that even sound right to people? No, not necessarily, because Hakari's feats don't back it up. But if you go by the statements, though, if you go by Gojo's assessment, though, if you go by Yuta's assessment, though, so what do we choose? What do we choose? That's the thing. Hakari bothers me so much because he's so polarizing. He's either one of the strongest characters in the verse, arguably number 5. If he gets on a roll, no one's stopping him, except for Gojo and Suguna, who could rival him in domain class and probably outbeat his refinement, or Suguna just shattering the domain barrier from the outside. But if he gets on a roll, and he's relative to Yuta in stats, and he literally can't be slaughtered by anything Yuta does because Yuta's scale of attacks just wouldn't do enough. Well, bada bing, bada boom, that's unfortunate. It really be like that when it be like that. Especially when it be like that sometimes. Yuta can't beat him. Oh no, if he's really relative to Yuta in speed, well, it's I'm not going to slop him off that one. I'm not going to slop Yuta off that one. But speed-wise, he body bags Yuji Itadori. Because Yuji would never be able to stop him. He'd just get domain loop forever. Who cares about soul damage? Hakari would auto-heal it. If Yuji could even tag him. Because Yuji's not necessarily the fastest guy. Okay, that's also a lot. But still, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's the fact that we have to rely so much on statements. And like I said, he's not the first character like this. He's not the first character to be a statement merchant. A lot of characters in a lot of different series. I don't want to name some series because I feel like that's massive spoilers for some of the series that are immediately coming to mind. But there are characters in JJK and in other series that are carried mostly by their narrative and not necessarily lack of feats. We call them the jobbing cast, aka the cast that's supposed to be strong, but it's only to make other characters look strong. And Hakari's definitely a member of that. He was very clearly set up to be as powerful as Yuta Kotsu to make Kashimo Hajime seem extremely powerful to delude us into thinking he had a chance against Suguna. Orume was set up to be extremely powerful through Hakari Kinji being set up to be extremely powerful and then struggling so much against them. Overall, Hakari is kind of just a character you throw up against other characters to make other characters seem more powerful. But the thing is, unlike a good jobber, this is the difference. A good jobber has feats to prove that they are worth jobbing. As much as I hate the fact that Vegeta has not beaten a main villain despite Dragon Ball going on for what? Not going on, but still, Dragon Ball being out for 30 years now? He's a real good jobber. Why? Because he's got feats. He's got feats. Oh yeah, sure. He jobbed to every Frieza ever. But guess what? He had feats on the Ginyu Force. Ooh. He had feats back on Earth. Ooh, he had feats all over them. Ooh, so that jobbing, it works. So Saiyan Vegeta, he was dogging Perfect Cell. So when he jobs the semi-perfect cell, so when he jobs the Perfect Cell, ooh, that's crazy. Perfect Cell must be really, really strong if he was dogging on the guy who just dogged him in his semi-perfect state. That's crazy. Vegeta works as a jobber. because we know he's strong. And we've seen the fact that he's strong against other people. But outside of Charles, who has Hakari beat straight up? Can you tell me? Oh, he beat a teenager that wasn't fighting back in Yuji Itadori, and he beat Charles. And who is Charles? Like, legitimately, who is that? His other two fights, and in either a fight that he himself doesn't believe that he won. Once again, I do wish I actually had like pre-prepped and brought up that final chapter. But he goes into this battle with Kashimo, agreeing that he doesn't really think he beat Kashimo, half because it was circumstantial, the other half because Kashimo didn't use his CT. And he goes out of the fight with Urume with damage all over him, having the minimal damage to them, and then they off themselves in front of him. And technically, the one thing I'll give Hakari Kinji is that he does not lose. He either stalemates or wins. I can give him that. But it's the way he wins. It's the way he stalemates. It's the people he fights. It's just so weird. It's so strange. He's in this, he has this, like, honestly, I keep calling it like a polarizing as in there's a binary problem. It's really a trinary problem. That's not the thing. It's a three-way problem. Because there's either Hakari Kinji, the statement merchant, where you jack him up to oblivion, he's top 6, top 7, top 8, top 9, easily top 10. If you take all statements at face value and just assume that no character can beat him in every single character he ever fought, which is that guy, realistically. There's Feet Kari, where he's basically feetless and gets washed by any character that has any sort of speed feat on Sukuna, any sort of Duraneg that's applicable against Sukuna, any sort of power stat that exceeds the characters he fought, aka Kashimo and Arame, who basically have no feats against or on anybody else in terms of their physical stats, so he gets washed physically, and he has no durability. And then you have the third group, Trikari, where he's kind of there, and ultimately, you go with just his win ratio. And if he won a lot, he must be strong, right? But he can't be stronger than the other people who won a lot, like Yuta. Yuji didn't win a lot. Like Maki, realistically. And then again, Maki didn't win too much. She won against Naoya, then she won a rematch against Naoya, then she won against the entire thing. Okay, so Maki in the back half, once she awoke, has Maki, outside of Sukuna, did Maki really lose a fight ever since she awoke? She was kind of losing to Curse Naoya, but she got her get back. So still, like, it's just, it's the caliber of feat, how it's presented, and how the battles went. All the battles always seem circumstantial. It never feels like Hakari wins by his own power. It feels like Hakari wins by just standing there and getting hit. And obviously, you know, this is probably a lingering aspect of the Pokemon player in me who hates Stall with every fiber of his being, but that's it. That's all Hakari Kinji does. He runs down your PP. He takes up a whole bunch of turns. He doesn't actually beat you. It's like fighting... Really. It's like fighting a Gliscor with Poison Heal. You don't actually need to worry about the Gliscor, especially if you have a flying type. But he has Protect, and he has Toxic, and you are on your last Pokemon. Womp womp, little bro. It'd be a shame. In many other circumstances, that Dragonite there could easily beat that Gliscor. But unfortunately, it just can't. Womp, womp, womp. And that's Hakari. So, I really do ask you, from me to you, person to person, individual to individual, where do you put Hakari Kinji? And where would you put the three different types of Hakari Kinji? I want to know, where do you put Statement Kari, the Hakari Kinji who is relative to Yuta Kotsu, the second strongest sorcerer of the modern day, and overall is a monster, a beast, a creature, an animal on pure statements alone? And what do you think that does to affect the rest of the verse? And the rest of the verse is scaling based on the characters Hakari fights? Where do you put Feet Kari, aka the character that only relies on his feats of actual damaging people, the way he wins fights, and also his overall durability and speed and stuff like that? And then where do you put Win Kari, aka the character that won every single fight he was technically in, and technically has never lost a single battle, but ultimately still sort of relies on the ideas of Feet Kari? Please let me know in the comment section down below. I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do happen to have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month to get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can also now become a member to the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks will include the live reactions to every other series I happen to review, and free variations of all my videos. And if you become a $25 patron or a $25 member, you can order whatever video you want. Also, I do have a link to my Ko-Fi in the description down below, where you can support me for 5 beans in order to get a short video, 25 beans in order to get a long video. Any beans at all, any support is always greatly appreciated. Now, I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Back on the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members: Sierra, Greyhound, Eternal Flame, NMA, Real Rare, Red Wolf 4765, Paris Arnold, Astro, Brandon Payne, and G Prosper. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $5 patrons: Sean, Midnight Lord 21, Kevin, Encarnacion, Josh Brown, Igneal Lind, and A+A. And I'd like to give a big ol' thank you to our $7 members: Autumn Mornings Lazo, Fine, Zombie Hunter, and Austin Wimberly. Then I'd like to give a thank you to our $10 members: Robbie Uchiha, Jay Warrior, and AZ Void. Then I'd like to give a big ol' thank you to our $10 patrons: Overlord Zero, Joaquin Munoz, and Idem Okami.
And I'd like to give the craziest, juiciest, most next-level, quadruple, sloppy, toppy, next-level superhuman in beyond this world kidney having thank you to our $100 patron, or that guy with a pencil tier patron, Calvin Elder.